guys, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about yet another smart toilet. This is probably the third video I've done on smart toilets. I did my original one, like, God only how many years ago, I don't know what it was. It's got to be like 6-7 years ago. That was the original one I had from Toto, and then I got one of these by EPLO last year. And now that I'm in the new house, I installed the latest version that EPLO has. This is the U8Pro. And basically we're going to be looking at the installation and operation of this unit here. So that's it. Let's get started. So first step obviously is get rid of your old toilet. So just disconnect that, etc. On the wall here right now, I just have a single valve. We're going to have to change that out. But before we do that, so we can position it to the most optimal position that's both functional so it doesn't pinch the lines and is not sticking out visually, we're going to wait until we get the toilet and we know the actual position of everything. So that'll be a little bit later. First thing we're going to do is on our flange here, first thing you got to make sure is your flange is okay. As long as your flange is okay, you're ready to go. And we're just going to grab the parts kit that came with the toilet and we're going to show you how it actually connects to the floor. It's a very cool design and it works really well. It's very simple actually to mount it to the floor. The parts kit that comes with it has two bolts here that you will put in your flange, obviously, just like a normal bolt that you're using to hold down the toilets. And then what happens is they have these little brackets. Now the way these brackets work is these little sort of like protrusions right here line up inside your flange, and then this goes down like that, and then you put your washer on and then your nut, right? But when it's tightened down, you notice it's going to be at an angle, and the reason it does that is because you're going to take these two screws once you place your toilet on the seal, and there's a hole in the side of the toilet that's going to go and just hit one of these holes depending where it is exactly. Doesn't matter which one. This is a very heavy duty nylon, a little flexible also, and this will never break because of the material it's made out of. But basically you screw it in and then you start tightening it down, and what happens is it actually pulls this vertical, and while it's doing that, because of this is being attached to your flange, it's actually pushing the toilet towards the floor. This is what makes it so tight to the floor, because it's actually just a geometry thing right here where they've designed it in a way that this, as soon as you start yanking on it, pushes this down. And then this, of course, is attached to the toilet, the porcelain itself, so that's pushing it down to the floor. It makes a super tight seal that doesn't rock around or move. It's a really clever design. Now the way it works on the porcelain is you put this first in the hole in the porcelain, and then the screw goes in there, and that way this doesn't crack the porcelain when you're tightening it down. And then it has a little trim cap that just goes on top of it to hide the head of the screw. That's pretty much it. So you just put this on your two flange areas, and because of the way it works, it really doesn't have to be a perfect alignment, right? You're just facing them each out, you know, horizontally across each other on the same line, and when you put your screw through the toilet, you're going to be able to hit any one of these holes that are here, and that's how it works. So let me get these attached to the flange and the floor, and I'll show you how it all looks. Right, there you go, that's all you need. So basically you see they're attached here under with the closet bolt to the flange. Those two little guides stick out and they go right in the groove here, so it keeps them that, and they're tight, and you can see they're flexible, so they'll move out right once we start tightening the toilet to the ground. So that's pretty much it for that step. It's pretty standard. You're going to take your wax sealing ring and put it onto your flange on the floor. Now the toilet comes with one, and there's no reason to go out and buy another one. This one's a little bit different. It is sort of like a wax butyl almost type of material, which I've used at my other house without any issue at all. So I wouldn't hesitate using this one. It has a nice plastic guide in it also. Like even the old one I took off from here just a couple minutes ago didn't even have the guide in it. So this one is perfectly fine. You don't need to go out and buy another seal. Just take the paper off of it and then, you know, put it into your flange. All right, so we have the toilet now on the wax ring here, right here. So next is to actually put the 2 screws in. So right now, as you can see, it doesn't really rock, but it's loose, right? And once we put those screws in, you're going to see how tight it gets to the floor. So let me go grab those. So this is the screw with the sleeve on it. It's going to go on the hole on the side, and then you're just going to kind of feel to hit a hole in that nylon bracket, and then you're just going to tighten it. Now, do not use a power driver. Just take a regular screwdriver. Even if you don't have a lot of room on the side, just use a shorty or something. It should be fairly easy to go through the nylon. So. And then just screw it in and snug it up on both sides first. And then once it's snug evenly on both sides, start tightening it down on each side a little bit at a time until it gets really tight to the floor. And that's what you're after. All right, so here's the hole on the one side. I'm just going to put the bolt in here, and I'm just kind of feeling for a hole basically in the bracket is what I'm after, and I feel one right there. So I'm going to just start there, and I'm going to get a screwdriver and tighten this down a little bit. All right, so there you go. That's what the finished installation. You're going to take these little trim caps that come with it, and you're just going to plop them right on there. They just fit right on, and that's kind of what it looks like on each side. There it is mounted to the floor, and as you can see, if I try to move it, it doesn't move. It's solid to the ground, so we're good there. Of course, if you have an uneven floor, you'll either have to take care of that or shim it, which is not unusual. Usually there's plenty of room in the back there, so if you had to put a plastic shim underneath there and tap it under, you could do that. But yeah, just make sure it's nice and tight to the floor and it doesn't move around. So all I really did is I put the toilet on the flange just to make sure everything lined up. And then I just, on the front of the toilet, I had a carpet. And all I did was I tipped it up from the back and put a big styrofoam block to hold the back up, and then I checked to make sure that the flange that's on the porcelain was going to line up with the flange on the floor. And then I just took the seal, the neoprene seal there, or it's like a butyl, I should say. It's like a butyl seal, and I just slid it underneath there because there was enough space, and then I just gently rested the back down and then pushed down on it and wiggled it, and that's it, and we're sealed. So and then I put the screws in, and now it's all tight to the floor. So next is to get the water hooked up to it. Remember, we have 2 lines on this particular one. So there's a valve they give you that comes with the kit. It's a double valve that has 2 outlets on it, and you just have to hook that up to your plumbing. In my case, I just hooked it up directly to a PVC fitting. Well, as you can see right there is my fitting, my line coming out of the wall. Here is the fitting itself. Now what I did is I actually attached the lines ahead of time to the fitting to make it easier, and I just left the PVC off white, and all I'm going to do is attach it now to the wall right here, right? Just glue it on, and that'll be good. And basically now I can make it at the right angle here so that the lines are not kinked. Right, so I wasn't sure where it was going to land exactly. So right, instead of this being completely vertical, it's off at an angle a little bit to make the lines nice and smooth and round, and there's no kinks in them. Remember, because you got to deal with 2 of them. So that works in this particular case. So right where the angle it's at right here is the angle that I am going to glue it in on. And then that's it, my lines are done. So Teflon tape around the fittings here. You just snug down the fittings on the lines. Remember, don't over tighten or you'll crush the rubber seals. So biggest mistake everybody makes, over tightens them. You just tighten them till they're nice and snug, and that's all you need. They're never gonna move. And put Teflon tape around those threads and you should be good to go. So I'm gonna get this all glued up here, and then we'll talk about the electrical. There's my connection right there. You can see there's the valve right down here with the lever, so easy to reach if I ever needed to. What's nice about my installation, it just so happens that the supply pipe happened to be in the right position. So if you can see from here, right, you can't actually see any of the plumbing. It's all hidden behind the toilet itself, which is super nice, right? Not always the case, but in my case it just happened to work out, so that makes a nice clean installation. All right, so the next piece is electrical. That's the final piece. So we're gonna let the PVC cement dry. I usually, even though it's only a 15-minute cure technically, I let it dry all day before I turn the water back on. I've never had a problem when I do that. So, but for now, the next step is electrical. So when you're using water with electricity, obviously, always in the bathrooms, you should have ground fault circuit interruption. Now, a lot of the homes today have ground fault circuit interruption in the actual circuits themselves, right at the breaker panel. So you don't even need a separate outlet. So you can see this outlet right here is a standard looking outlet because that whole circuit is protected by ground fault way back at the breaker panel. So, and most bathrooms today are sort of done that way. They don't actually use the separate ground fault outlets. If you have a separate ground fault outlet, that works too. So you could go down and put one in and swap out your standard outlet. They run 25 to 30 bucks usually for a good ground fault outlet. So, you know, instead of doing that, if your circuit's already grounded, that's all you need. But what's really nice about this company is if you don't have either, so you don't have it at the panel and you don't have an actual ground fault outlet, and you'd like to save 25-30 bucks, this toilet actually comes with its own built-in ground fault. So even if you don't have one, it has one in it by itself. So it has a reset button on it and a test button on it. So and that's pretty much it. So that's really nice they included that. It's a little bulky, but it works, right? So that's going to plug into your outlet, and then you'll just route your cable. You can tuck it in the back of the toilet because there's plenty of room inside there to tuck the wires in, and that's pretty much it for that part of the electrical. There's all the plastic wrap off and everything, and you can kind of see what it looks like. It does have this little sensor sticker here which also comes off. I guess it's just to let you know immediately, but basically that's kind of how it knows if you're sitting or not, right? And then has a little bit these things, these stickers up here. All this comes off without any issue. Pull them off, right? And they're just, you know, safety precaution warnings, standard stuff you see on everything. Talks about not, you know, what kind of cleaners to use. Don't use, you know, harsh cleaners, things like that, right? So that's all that is, right? So you can pull all these little stickers off here and no problem. They're not going to leave a residue or anything like that. They come right off. So no big deal. But they're on here just to begin with, right? So you know where things are. And just some little messages, but that's about it. So with the unit, you're going to get a remote control and a wall holder. So it does have a hole here for a screw. You don't need it. It has 3M adhesive double-sided tape on the back. If you use that on your wall, that's all you need. This is not very heavy at all. It does have an on and off switch on the back, so just keep that in mind if it's not working. And then some batteries in the back here. And then the remote itself has its own instruction book to let you know how it works. I've used this remote before. It's pretty straightforward for the most part. Remember, the toilet is pretty much automatic. You don't really have to touch any of this stuff for the most part. This is just for things like if you want to turn on and off the dryer, or if you're initially setting the temperature. Same thing with the rear wash, the front wash, and then you have the regular plus and minus when you're moving things up and down like temperatures and things like that. And there's a stop button in the middle to stop anything that's in process. You have the water temperature setting here. This is the night light. Very cool feature. We'll show you that. Seat temperature, and then you have full flush, half flush, deodorizer, and then open and close the lid, open and close the seat. Now remember, these are going to all happen automatically, and once you set all your stuff, you don't have to really touch the remote. The only time you're really touching the remote is if you want to do a front or rear wash, and that's pretty much it. And you're just going to tap it and it's going to do its thing. So you don't really use it a lot, and everything else is automatic, auto flush, all that kind of stuff. So you don't have to really, you really don't touch the toilet at all for the most part. So, and that's it. So I usually just put this right next to the toilet, you know, when you're sitting. And that's pretty much it. And then the instructions go through all the features, which we will go through once we get the water turned on. So we're going to let the CPVC cement dry for a while first. And then we'll turn the water back on, check for leaks. And then if everything's good there, plug it in. And after that, we'll run through all the tests. There's a remote mounted on the wall. I just use double-sided tape, mostly because on this wall I actually have a pocket door, so don't want to be screwing into the wall here. But yeah, just take the backing off, get it positioned, press it on, and then once you have that, just take the remote out, give it a nice good hard press right where the backing tape is, and then just let it sit for a couple hours before you put the remote back in, and then you're good to go. And I just made sure that when I'm sitting, basically everything is at eye level. In other words, it's not too low. I don't have to bend over, look down, look up, right? It's right at eye level, and I can reach it right from that position, and then, you know, be able to easily read and hit any button I want to. FYI, that little thing here is actually not on off. It's actually what opens a little door in the back to put your batteries in the remote. So don't pry on this. I was prying on it. I'm like, why isn't this coming out? It's because the little slider right there is what opens and closes the door. So that's it. We got the water turned on, no leaks, and we're gonna plug it in here. And then I think they said hit the reset. And then you can see the lights come on there on the toilet. Just going through some processes. And that beep is supposed to mean the self-test is all complete and everything. You can see it opened up on me because I'm standing right here. So there is some water in it, but not a lot yet. So I think we need to, let's see. It's got open, close, foot sensor, maintenance. Doesn't really say how to get it primed here, so I guess we'll just flush it a couple times and then just see what happens as far as the, so let's do a half flush right here. Let's see. Alright, now it's filled up. You want the bowl filled up, obviously, so you don't get sewer gases coming back into the house, right? So that looks good. Looks like it'll probably take a couple times to get all the air out of the system, most likely. But that's kind of how it works. Now that the toilet's installed, it's all ready to go. So there's a couple of functions. There's sort of manual functions and there's automated functions. And you have the ability to turn these on or off depending what your preference is. So the first automatic function by default is auto sensing. So basically what happens is if you walk into the room in front of the toilet, then the lid will automatically open up, okay? And so if you're going to sit down, you're all set to go. If you're going to be standing up while using the toilet, then you have to actually lift up the seat also. So you can do that in two different ways. You can either hit the button on the remote, which is kind of a pain, right? Why would you want to do that? Or you can just tap the side of the toilet with your foot and it'll automatically then open that up. And then the same thing when you walk away, everything will close automatically after a period of time. Usually I think it's about, I don't know, either 30 seconds to a minute, and then you'll see it'll actually just close and that'll be it, okay? Now, there's a couple different things when you're doing automated things. So if you do the whole automated functions and you leave them all enabled, what happens is when you approach it, the lid will go up, you can sit down, use the toilet, and then when you're finished and you just stand up and leave, everything is automatic. The lid will go down by itself and the toilet will automatically do a full flush because it sensed that you were actually sitting on the toilet. If you're standing in front of the toilet, then when you're finished, you just tap the side, and when you tap the side, the lid will close, and then when you tap it, it'll do a half flush because it saw that you were standing, so it doesn't need to do a full flush, and it saves water that way. You can also turn off the automatic lid opening if you don't like that and just use the foot sensor or the button on the remote if you want to open up. So it's totally up to you which way you like it. Some people don't like it when you walk into the room that it opens up automatically. It really depends on where your toilet is located in your bathroom. So for me, when I come into the bathroom to use the sink or whatever, the toilet's not going to activate because it's back here next to the shower. But when I come in and if I just want to use the shower, it's going to automatically open because it senses me passing by it. If you don't like that, you can turn off the auto lid open and just use the foot function to actually, open and close it. In front of it here, and as you see, what happens is it just automatically will open. So it's ready to go. And if I want to sit down, I can just sit down. And then once you sit down and then you're finished and you get up, the lid will automatically close and it'll auto flush because I have everything set to auto at this point. And it'll do a full flush when it does that. So if you just sit down, basically you're just sitting, you hear this little noise, it beeps, and then you'll hear like water running a little bit. And what it does is it runs water around the bowl to pre-wet it so that solids don't stick to the bowl. And that way when it does its flush, it's clean. And then when you get up, you'll hear a beep. That's the beep that tells you the lid is about to close. And then the lid will actually close itself. And then once the lid closes, it'll do its auto flush. So then you'll hear another beep, and there it's flushing. And that's a full flush because I was sitting. Okay, and that's it. And then it's gonna just, like a normal toilet, there's a small tank. It's not as big as a normal toilet tank, but there's a small tank in the back that will then refill itself. And then once it refills itself, it'll go silent again. So it'll be ready to go. And that's sort of the automatic mode if you're just sitting down. Okay, if you're going to be standing up when you come up to the toilet, it's going to be the same thing. So you can, it'll open up. I can just tap it with my foot on the side. It'll open up the other one. And then after you use the toilet, you can do the same thing. And you just tap it on the side, tap it again, right? They're both closed. And at that point then, if you wanted to, you'll see it auto flush by itself. You don't have to tap it again to make it flush. The fact that you opened it up, you were standing using it, and then you just close the lid, it auto does a half flush. So really there's nothing to touch with your hands at all, right? And the tapping with the foot, by the way, on the side right here is anywhere in this area. You don't have to be on a specific spot, right? There is a little sticker on the side that shows you the area, but there's no special area. Like I've never had to figure out where to put my foot. I just tap it right on the front corner here, anywhere. It doesn't matter where. And when you do that, it'll open and close and do its thing. Let's look at the remote, which you can just stick on the wall right close to the toilet. But it's really, for the most part, you're not going to use most of this on here. It's mostly just for setting settings. And the main thing you would use is probably just the front and the rear cleaning, and then if you want to turn on the little dryer, which just blows hot air to dry you off after you're finished cleaning, basically. So you'll have the standard open and close the lid button, open and close the seat button. So that's just a manual way to do it. To be honest with you, I don't know why you'd ever need to use those ever, since you can use the foot tap, which is much easier, and you don't have to use your hands to touch anything. You also have a full flush button and a half flush button. So again, if you wanted to, you could force it into one of those. So let's just say that you were sitting down using the toilet, but it wasn't anything that you needed solids for, and you just want to do a half flush. Before you actually get up, you can actually hit the half flush. It'll start the process, and then you won't waste water doing a full flush when it's not needed. So that's the only time you might use the buttons. Otherwise, everything's automatic. It also has this little deodorizer that you can turn on or off. I leave it on. And basically what it is a little fan within the bowl. And it goes through like a little charcoal filter. And basically you won't smell any odors anymore either. So you don't need to spray your deodorizer in your bathroom or anything at all. Because this will take care of it. And I just leave it turned on. It's almost silent. You can hear just a little bit when the fan is running, but that's it. You can barely hear it, so leave that on. And then you have 3 buttons on here: water temperature and seat temperature. So when you hit this button, every time you hit it, a little light will go on here. You have 5 levels, so you can set it to whichever level you want to, and it'll stay at that level. Same thing for the seat temperature. Okay, and then the light is the night light. So if you turn on the night light, what that does is it has a light on the bowl that actually lights up. And you can set it to either be on all the time, or you can set it to be on for ambient light. So when it sees it gets dark, it'll be on. So basically if you need to get up in the middle of the night for whatever reason, you don't have to flick on the bathroom lights, blind yourself to death, and then use the bathroom, right? The night light will be lit and it lights it up. It's fairly bright too, so you won't have trouble finding the toilet usually. But that's what the light is for. Okay, and then these three buttons are probably the main ones you would use on the remote, and that's only when you want to do front or rear cleaning. Okay, and then you can adjust the position of the wand as it comes out using the arrows here. So once it starts and it's running, you can then use the arrows to move it front or back. Same thing with the front cleaning. And then you can also use the minus and the plus for the water pressure when these are running. So if you want light pressure, harder pressure, whatever it may be. And then the same thing with the dryer temperature. This just turns the dryer on and off, but you can also set the temperature up and down for the dryer, again, using the same buttons here. So all those settings that you can set and have them ready to go. And then they'll stick at those particular settings and you don't have to ever touch them again, basically. Well, it has these four lights that you can see right here that are on the back of the toilet there. You can see two are lit up right now. So the first light is for the intelligent night light. So when the intelligent night light is on there, that little indicator is lit up, it means that the intelligent mode is turned on and that the night light is on. Otherwise it's going to be off if it's not at the right ambient light. Okay. The next one is for water temperature. So the light is on when the water temperature is in the 1 to 5 level, and it's off if it's just normal room temperature water. And then the seat temperature light is on again when you have set the temperature from the 1 to 5 level. Otherwise it'll be off if it's not turned on at all. And then energy saving mode is the last one, the little green leaf, and that's lit when the main unit is in the power saving or energy saving mode. So when nobody's using a toilet, all the lights go off to save electricity, but anytime you come close to it and it activates, then the lights will come on telling you the different modes. Now if you're in energy saver mode, what that means basically is that the temperature of the seat will be at its lowest level automatically. So even if you try to set it higher, it's not going to stick. It's going to automatically go down to the first level because you're in energy saver mode. So and the way you turn that on and off is actually on the remote here itself. There's the stop button, which is right in the middle. Normally if you want to stop something like the wash or whatever, you just hit the stop button, it'll stop. If you hold the stop button down for a couple seconds, you'll hear a beep, and that's what turns on and off the eco mode. And it actually says it right on the moat, hold to eco, right? So if you accidentally hold it in too long and you switched on eco mode, and then the next time you go to use the unit and the seat is not warm or something, then you probably accidentally turned it on. But if you just look at your indicator lights right there, you'll be able to tell if it's on or off. And that'll give you the indication like what setting it's at. When you're using the wash functions, basically there's two sort of modes to it. When you press the button, the little indicator light first of all will show you the temperature that it's currently set at for the water. So if you want to adjust it, you can, because it'll display that. If you press it again, it'll go to like what they call an oscillating mode, which means that the wand sort of moves back and forth to expand the washing area, and then it'll stop after one cycle automatically. Once you're done and you're finished with your washing, you just hit the stop button and it'll stop, and then the wand retracts, auto cleans itself, you don't have to do anything. It's the same exact thing for the front function too. And then as far as the dryer temperature, okay, when you press that, it means the dryer's on. And again, it'll automatically show the temperature with the little indicator lights right here. And then if you want to adjust it up or down to make your setting changes, you just hit the little plus or minus sign. So if I hit the dryer, you see right now it's at a 3. So I could move it to like a 5 if I wanted to, right? So it just depends what you're after as far as its temperature goes. And if you leave it at nothing, basically it's room temperature when it's on. And then you can do the same thing for the water volume, okay? So it's the same thing, you use the plus and minuses for the water volume. As far as the position of the adjustment, it's the same type of thing. Once you actually have the unit operating, you just use the arrows up or down. That's sort of front and back, basically. It moves it so you can get the position for how you sit on the seat, and that's pretty much it. So water temperature, again, just a short press on the water temperature down here. That'll adjust it up and down. Same thing with the seat. If you do a short press on the night light, it just turns it on and off. If you want intelligent mode, you do a long press on it, you'll hear a beep again. And then if it's on intelligent mode again, you'll see that little light on the seat. And then of course you have the flushes we talked about here. If you want to turn off the auto flush for whatever reason, I don't know why you would, but if you did, for whatever reason, then on the basically the half flush, full flush buttons, you just hold the button down for a couple extra seconds and then you'll hear a beep and it turns it on and off as far as being automatic. Okay. Same thing with the open the lid, close the lid. If you want to turn off the auto stuff, you just hold down the button, long press until you hear a beep. And everything is pretty much a long press or short press to turn things on and off, right? Same thing with the deodorization, etc. So, and then the pre-wetting function, same thing. That's going to be the little drop right here on the full flush one. So if you want to turn that off, again, you're just holding it down until you hear the beep, okay? And it uses just a very small amount of water, so, you know, leaving it on keeps the bowl clean much longer, so I would just leave it on. And you can actually turn on and off the foot sensor function too by the other button. Use the half raindrop here, and basically that one will also allow you to turn it on and off. So for the most part, what I'm basically saying is that you have full control over which functions you want automatic and which functions you prefer to have manual. The other thing it does have is it actually has a little knob on the side. I don't know if you can see it right there, but this is also another way, especially if you have guests over who don't really understand how it all works. You can actually just push that button and that will do a flush too. It's also a rotary knob, so the knob allows you to change different modes and then use it that way too. For the manual cleaning function, you just move the knob forward and what you'll see is the little wand will come out. And you notice there's just water running around it, right, to try to clean it. And then you can take, you know, cleaner or whatever you want and just clean it off and do whatever you want to do if you want to keep it clean. Now, it does clean itself every time it's used. So you'll probably find that, at least I did over the years, that you really don't have to touch it really for the most part, right? And then I think if you just go backwards maybe, or I'm not sure how it goes back in, hold on. Yeah, you just tap the button again and then it'll go back in. So that's the manual cleaning mode. Obviously you didn't see any water spraying out of it, right? That only happens when actually somebody's sitting on it. So, and that's pretty much it as far as all the functions and everything. I mean, the instruction manual is pretty good. So if you just read it, it'll tell you how to work everything. And like I said, for the most part, once you have this all set up, it's kind of automatic. You don't really do anything. I think the most annoying thing is every time you walk into the room, it opens up. And so that is something you can disable and you don't even have to worry about it. And then you can just use your foot to open it and you're good to go. So, but other than that, all the other automatic functions I think you'll like, and you don't have to do anything. If you have a large family using the same bathroom, it's obviously going to prevent a lot of germ transfer because nobody's touching anything really as far as controls or anything like that. So it's actually a really good design. And once I experienced these over in Europe, I was like, oh, we got to get this in my house. So, and ever since then, I've had these in my house and they've always been fantastic. Alright guys, well I hope that video was helpful on the EPLO U8Pro smart toilet. These things are fantastic. They got all these functions on them. Everything's automated. You don't have to touch anything, which is really nice. And I love the modern, sleek design on these things too. Like I said, I had the previous version in my old house, never had any issues with it. This one is the latest version with a lot more features now where you can turn them on and off where before you couldn't. So it's really nice they give you the option now. And the other thing, it has a nice, really strong jet flush on it too, because they use a solenoid mechanism instead of just regular gravity flush. So these things never clog ever, you know, they're always clean and just really nice units overall. So yeah, they're more expensive than a regular toilet, but to be honest with you, you go to Lowe's for a standard Kohler toilet, you're going to be into it $400 or $500 anyway. This was $30 somewhere around there with the discount off of Amazon. They delivered it right to the house, no problem, no damage. So yeah, overall just a great unit if you're interested in those types of things. And I tell you, once you go to a smart toilet, you never want to go back. So these things are fantastic. So alright guys, that's going to be it for today's video. As always, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, put your comments down below about this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace, guys.